So, you're planning a celebration, right? Maybe for a bride-to-be, and you're trying to hit that perfect note. Elegant, genuinely fun, maybe a little sophisticated, but, without feeling stiff or super expensive.
It absolutely is. That balance is tricky. You want the guest of honor to feel really celebrated, and you want everyone else to feel like relaxed and connected.
Right. Generic just isn't the goal.
No way.
Exactly. So we dug into this really fantastic planning guide. It focuses on one specific idea that the source makes a really strong case for, throwing a bridal shower centered around a wine tasting.
Yeah, it's presented as this great way to kind of elevate the whole event, make the activity itself the heart of the party.
So our mission in this deep dive, really just pull out the most valuable, maybe even surprising bits of advice from this guide. We're looking for those insights that make this kind of party work, brilliantly, even if you're not a wine pro or a seasoned party planner.
Like a shortcut.
Yeah, exactly. You're a shortcut to making this whole sophisticated yet laid-back idea actually happen.
Turning what could be a planning headache into something, well, enjoyable. And a day people remember.
Okay, let's just jump in then. The guide argues that a wine tasting isn't just an option for a shower, but maybe one of the best options. What's the core thinking there?
Well, what's really compelling is how the source frames it. It's an activity that naturally brings people together. Unlike just milling around or playing maybe slightly awkward icebreaker games.
Right.
Tasting wine gives everyone a built-in focal point, a shared sensory thing. It gives guests something to do and something specific to talk about that isn't just, small talk.
So it kind of solves that initial, maybe slightly stiff party start problem?
Precisely, yeah. It adds structure but doesn't feel overly rigid. And the guide really hits on its flexibility. You can scale it easily.
Yeah.
Small group, big group.
Okay.
And crucially, you can really adapt it to fit pretty much any budget.
Ah, that's a key point right there, because people might hear wine tasting and immediately think expensive,
Yeah.
right? But the source pushes back on that.
Totally pushes back. It's really about the experience, not necessarily like the price tag of the bottles you pick.
Gotcha. So focus on the interaction, the learning maybe.
Exactly. You can find really interesting, affordable wines and just focus on the fun of tasting together.
All right, so once you're kind of sold on the basic idea, where do you even begin? The guide puts a lot of importance on choosing a theme. Why is that so fundamental for this specific type of shower?
Yeah, the source calls the theme the North Star for the whole thing. It's not just about picking like colors or something. It guides your wine choices, the food you serve, the decor, even how the invites look. It gives the whole party a cohesive feel, which is pretty important when you want the tasting elements to work together smoothly.
And the advice is always make it personal to the bride, right?
Always. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what makes it feel special, not generic. The guide offers some really good examples, too, like around the world, maybe featuring wines from places the couple has traveled to or wants to visit.
Oh, I like that.
Or decades of love with wines from significant years in their relationship. Or you could just keep it simple and elegant, like rosé all day for a summer shower.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. And I like that it stresses simplicity, too. Sometimes the simplest themes are easier to execute really elegantly, without getting bogged down.
Absolutely. Which kind of leads to the next big question.
Uh,
How do you translate that theme into actual atmosphere without needing like professional design skills?
yeah, how do you make it look the part? The guide has some really clever practical ideas here. It suggests focusing on thoughtful touches rather than huge, expensive gestures. For decor, obviously lean into the wine theme. But they mention things like using old vintage wine crates, which apparently you can often get for free or cheap from wine shops.
Oh, that's a good tip.
And using them as risers on your food table adds instant rustic charm and height variation, makes things look more interesting.
That's a great example of practical decor doing double duty.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing they mention is making functional items look good too, like using nice containers for the palate cleansers or pretty tags on the wine glasses so people don't lose theirs.
Yes, that's so important at a tasting. And the lighting. They really emphasize getting that right. Soft, ambient light is key. Think candles in old bottles, string lights draped around, maybe groups of candlesticks. It creates that warm, inviting mood. Sophisticated but relaxed.
Sets the whole vibe. And simple centerpieces work wonders, like empty wine bottles with just a single flower stem, or a clear vase filled with corks. Easy, cheap, totally on theme.
Or those little chalkboard signs for labeling wines or food adds a nice personal handmade touch.
Definitely.
Okay, let's get to the heart of it, the tasting itself. The guide is really clear. It's about the experience and, crucially, making it approachable, especially if you have beginners in the group. What's their main piece of advice here?
Their biggest warning, and honestly the most critical tip, is super simple.
Yeah.
Limit the number of wines you serve.
Oh, really? Why is that such a big deal?
Well, they make a really strong point about something called palate fatigue. Basically, your taste buds actually get tired. By the time you hit the fifth or sixth wine, especially if you're new to tasting,
Mhm.
you can barely tell the flavors apart anymore. You end up kind of diminishing the very experience you're trying to create.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
So the core insight here is that for a fun, beginner-friendly tasting where people can actually notice things, less is truly more.
Wow, that's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? You'd think more choice is better. But the guide says stick to what, 4 or 5 wines max?
Exactly. 4 or 5 is the sweet spot. And they suggest a classic tasting order to start light and bubbly, maybe Prosecco or Cava,
Okay.
then move to lighter white wines, then maybe a fuller-bodied white, then on to lighter reds, and finish with a fullest-bodied red. It's just a gentle progression for your palate.
And to make it interactive, what do guests need?
Right. You want people engaged. So provide things like tasting note cards or scorecards. Nothing too complex, maybe even a little cheat sheet with some simple wine words.
Like crisp or jammy or whatever.
Yeah, just some basic terms, and definitely lots of water glasses for rinsing and palate cleansing between wines. Hydration is key, they stress that.
Makes sense. And who leads the tasting? Do you need an expert?
Well, hiring a sommelier is definitely an option if the budget stretches that far. But the DIY route is totally fine, and maybe even more relaxed for a shower. The guys suggest creating your own custom tasting mats. Just a simple placemat with space for each glass, and maybe print a little info about each wine right on it where it's from, the grape, maybe a fun fact. Makes it easy to follow along without feeling put on the spot.
I like that. Less pressure, and this is where you can inject more fun too, right? Like adding a blind tasting challenge. Guess the grape or the region.
Oh yeah, definitely. Or maybe some wine trivia questions between pours. Turning it into a bit of a game makes it less serious, more social, which is exactly the vibe you want for a bridal shower.
Absolutely. Now, you can't really have wine tasting without food, can you?
No, definitely not.
The guide stresses pairings are essential, but right away it reassures you this doesn't mean complicated, expensive catering.
Phew. Okay, good.
Yeah, the key insight seems to be that the food should complement the wine, not compete with it or overwhelm it. You want flavors and textures that kind of enhance what's in the glass.
Okay, makes sense. Enhance, not overpower.
And setting up pairing stations is a really smart suggestion they make. It encourages guests to move around, mingle, explore different combinations on their own time.
Well, that's clever. Keeps things moving. So what kind of food works well?
They give some pretty foolproof ideas, things like mini charcuterie boards, maybe even let guests assemble their own little plate,
Fun?
a bruschetta bar with different toppings, simple things like good dark chocolate to go with red wines, or fresh fruit platters for the lighter wines. Even small cups of gazpacho or a light soup can be great for a palate reset, especially between whites.
Those all sound doable and delicious.
And they offer this great little rule of thumb for pairings. What grows together goes together.
What does that mean exactly?
Like pairing Italian wines with Italian cheeses or olives, or Spanish wines with manchego cheese and almonds. It's kind of a shortcut to finding combinations that generally work well together because they originate from the same place.
Okay. That simplifies things a lot. Take some guesswork out.
Yeah, it's a handy principle. And presentation still matters, even with simple food. Using rustic wooden boards, tiered trays, putting out little handwritten labels, it just elevates it.
Makes it feel special.
And one crucial point they make, non-negotiable really,
Right?
make sure you have good non-alcoholic options available. Sparkling water with lemon, maybe some nice grape juice or iced tea.
Absolutely essential. Got to make sure all guests feel included and comfortable whether they're drinking alcohol or not.
Definitely. Okay, so while the tasting is the main event, the guide suggests having other activities too, just to keep the energy flowing and offer variety. They list some really clever wine-themed ones.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, there's a message in a bottle station that sounds lovely. Guests write advice or good wishes on little paper scrolls, and then roll them up and put them into a nice wine bottle for the bride to open and read later. It's personal, interactive, and a great keepsake.
That's really sweet. I like that.
And wine bingo is always fun and easy to adapt. You can use wine terms, flavor notes from the tasting, or even mix in some inside jokes about the bride and groom.
Gets people listening and laughing.
Totally. Or how about design your own wine label? Give guests blank labels and some art supplies. Let them get creative. The bride can pick her favorite design at the end.
That's fun. Adds a creative element.
Yeah, and there are other ideas too, like a station for making personalized wine glass charms or wine trivia focused specifically on the couple story, maybe matching wines to regions on a map.
Or even a simple, lighthearted game like wine bottle ring toss if you have outdoor space.
Huh. Love it. But remember the guide's point too. It's smart to include a couple of non-wine activities as well, like a photo booth with fun props. Just ensures there's truly something for everyone, even if wine isn't their main thing.
Good point. Keeps it inclusive.
Okay, so this sounds amazing, but also like a lot of moving parts to manage. The guide does provide a really helpful timeline checklist, though. To
Okay.
break it all down, what are the key milestones you need to hit?
Yeah, the timeline is crucial. And the core insight from it really is that success comes down to advance prep. Don't leave things till the last minute. About 2 to 3 weeks before the party is when you need to nail down the guest list, get those final RSVPs. That's when you buy the wines.
How much wine do they suggest?
Ah, good question. Their practical tip is to estimate about 1 bottle per 4 or 5 guests per variety you plan to serve. So if you have 5 wines and 20 guests, that's around 4 or 5 bottles of each type.
Okay, that's a helpful benchmark.
Yeah. Also in that 2 to 3 week window, order or create your materials, scorecards, signs, labels. Plan your full menu and make your shopping list. Gather all your decor items, and importantly, sketch out a detailed timeline for the actual party day.
Got it. Then the week of.
Week of is for buying perishable food, any fresh flowers, confirming rentals if you have any, prepping any food components that can be made ahead, setting your party playlist, getting game materials ready.
Okay, getting closer. Day before.
Day before is big setup day. Arrange decor, set tables, get those white and sparkling wines chilling in the fridge. Finish any advanced food prep. Confirm any helpers you might have lined up. Set up your activity stations.
Phew. Then the day of.
Day of. Open the red wines maybe an hour or two before guests arrive. Let them breathe a bit. Finish last-minute food prep. Set up the actual tasting stations, glasses, note cards, spit buckets.
Right. Spit buckets. Important.
Essential for a tasting, put out water and palate cleansers. And maybe grab your phone and take some before photos of your setup before everyone arrives.
Good call. And a couple of other really smart practical tips from the guide. Try to designate someone else to be the main photographer, so you as the host aren't stuck behind a camera all day.
Oh, that's huge. Let yourself be present.
Yeah, and have a little emergency kit ready. Extra corkscrews, a good wine stain remover, extra napkins, maybe if you back up glasses just in case. Stuff happens.
Thinking through those little potential hiccups beforehand saves so much stress in the moment. Smart.
Definitely. Okay, so as guests are leaving, a thoughtful favor is a really nice touch to say thank you. The guide suggests keeping them useful and sticking with the wine theme.
Yeah, they kind of steer away from just purely decorative little trinkets that might end up in a drawer. Usefulness is key.
So what are some good ideas?
Things like mini bottles of wine with custom labels reflecting the shower theme or the couple.
Mhm.
Reusable wine stoppers are always handy. Personalized wine glass charms, or even consumables like small boxes of wine-infused chocolates or gourmet coffee. Wine-scented soaps or candles can be nice too. Coasters, wine-themed cookie cutters,
Yeah.
things people might actually use.
Oh, here's a clever idea they mentioned. What if the customized wine glasses guests use during the party are also the favor they take home?
Ooh, I like that. Very practical.
Yeah.
Solves the glass marker problem and the favor in one go.
Right. And they emphasize presentation for favors too. Don't just hand them out randomly. Set up a nice little display table near the exit. Makes them feel like a deliberate, thoughtful thank you.
Nice final touch.
Okay, finally, the guide offers a bit of a host survival guide because let's be real, you want to enjoy the party too, right? What's the core message for the host?
The biggest thing is, don't feel like you need to suddenly become a world-class sommelier. It's okay. Just print out some simple notes about the wines. Maybe ask the staff at your wine shop for a few key pointers when you buy them. The real focus should be on facilitating a fun, shared experience for everyone, not on, passing some kind of wine knowledge exam.
Oh, that's a huge relief to hear. Seriously.
Yeah, keep it relaxed.
And what about pacing the actual tasting part?
Well, if you wanted a really structured, formal tasting, you might allow 20-30 minutes per wine. But honestly, for a bridal shower, the guide suggests a looser structure is often better. Maybe have the tasting station set up, give a little intro, and then let guests move between them more at their own pace. Just make sure there's some sense of flow so people don't get stuck or finish way too quickly. Keep it moving gently.
Okay. Casual flow. I like that. And just repeating those key practical tips seems important for the host too. Have tons of water easily accessible. Use those glass markers or charms. Have discreet pour buckets available.
Mm-hmm. Maybe have rideshare info handy for guests. And definitely try to get those main group photos taken fairly early in the party while everyone's still fresh and mingling.
Good reminder before things get too relaxed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the guide really brings it all back to what truly matters, celebrating the bride-to-be. It's not about achieving some kind of impossible perfection. It's about creating a warm, joyful atmosphere where people connect.
Yeah. Sometimes a simple, heartfelt moment, like maybe asking each guest to share a quick toast or a wish for the bride, is way more memorable than the fanciest decoration or the rarest wine.
Absolutely. It's the laughter, the stories shared, the connections made over a glass of wine. Those are the real takeaways people will remember.
And this guide just helps you create a nice framework for those moments to happen more easily.
Exactly. Provides the structure for the fun.
So there you have it, a bridal shower wine tasting party. The source material really makes a compelling case for it hitting that sweet spot, sophisticated, but genuinely fun and engaging. By focusing on the shared experience, adding thoughtful pairings, some interactive elements, and following those practical planning tips like limiting the wines and prepping ahead, it sounds like you can create a really special, relaxed, and memorable event.
Yeah, it offers elegance, but also encourages that natural conversation and connection. Seems like a winning combo.
It really does sound like a fantastic way to celebrate. So now, thinking about all those theme ideas and the importance of personal touches, here's something for you to consider. What unique local element from your own area, or maybe a specific, perhaps quirky story about the bride or the couple, what could you weave into a wine tasting event like this to make it feel truly uniquely yours? Something to spark conversation and make it deeply personal.